Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on today's Microsoft training session. As you can probably tell from my slides, we are going to be looking at Excel today, and particularly we will be looking at a very basic kind of training session where we're trying to cement sort of like the fundamental knowledge of how to start working with this particular app and some of the main functionalities that everyone should be aware of. Before we start the actual demonstration, I just want to remind everyone joining us right now that this training session will be recorded for all of you. The recording is indeed available for 180 days as an on-demand basis, but to give you a little bit of a good news is that we are going to be sending the recording over to your team, and it will be made available internally at the Scottish Tech Army. Now, the next few slides that I have is basically just to get you accustomed to the format of today's training, as this is a Teams live event. The controls that you will see on your screen at this moment are as follows. At the bottom of the screen, there will be a player bar. From this player bar, you can play and pause the event from the bottom left. You can also drag the live moment if you want to rewind. For example, if you want to restart the entire event on your side, if you need to take notes, you can absolutely do that. Adjust the volume accordingly. Please be very careful if you're using any headsets. Make sure that they are correctly connected to your device and that the audio settings have been done correctly. Sometimes that might be the reason why you can't hear us. And towards the bottom right-hand corner of the player bar, you have the opportunity to turn on or off the closed captions. You have a settings wheel. From the settings wheel, you can select whatever text size, text color, and transparency you want for those closed captions, as well as additional options for the improvement of the video quality of the event. If you see the content or the screen goes pixeled or blurry, just know that underneath this settings wheel in the bottom right, you will find some features that will help improve that. And last but not least, the arrows will allow you to go in full screen mode. Now the panel that you see opened on the right-hand side of your screen, that's the Q&A panel. It allows you to interact with us during this training. It has a space at the bottom where you can type your question in or your message. Optionally, you can add your name as well, or if you want to post as anonymous, that is also fine. But all in all, once you have submitted the question or the message, it will then arrive on our side, presenters and producers, and we will start answering these questions for you. If by any chance you don't see this Q&A panel right now, please click on the question mark in the top right corner and it will open up for you. And last but not least, the reason why I am highlighting the Q&A so much is because it's the only tool that actually allows you to communicate with us during the next 60 minutes, as by default, your microphone and your cameras will not be in use. So bear that in mind. In terms of who is on the training session here with us, so today we've got Catherine and Claudia, the voice they hear right now. Both of us are working for the London Experience Centre for Microsoft as training associates. And in today's event in particular, Catherine will be the producer and the moderator. So she will be in the Q&A with all of you. And soon you will hear her over the microphone as well. And myself, my name's Claudia. I'm going to be taking you through the demonstration. In terms of what we're going to be covering, obviously we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. We're going to do a little bit of navigation through Excel. How do you get started? What is the main terminology and the areas that you should be aware of inside of the actual interface of Excel? And then afterwards, we are going to learn about charts and tables and some very basic formulas just to get you started on how formulas and functions actually work inside of the Excel application. And to help you even more, for those of you who would like to practice, or for those of you who would like to follow along while we do the demonstration, I have prepared a workbook. The same workbook that I'm going to be using during my demonstration is also available to all of you. there is a link that has been pasted in the Q&A. It's a link to my OneDrive, basically. So if you want to download yourself a copy of the same worksheet, please feel free to do that. It is very easy. Unfortunately, you cannot edit the document as it is. Obviously, I'm going to be using it. So what I will ask you is, once you have opened it, please go to the top left corner and click on the File tab. And then once the panel opens up, select Save As, download a copy. And that is literally yours to keep. And again, the link to this file has been pasted inside of the Q&A, so all of you should be able to see it right now. If there's any issues or so, do let us know. And I'm going to try maybe to reshare it or so. All right. So I'm just going to swing back quickly to the agenda that we just talked. We're going to start straight away with the navigation process and all of the other pieces that fall underneath, also to give you time to actually download that copy of the workbook. So I'm going to swap my screen around. I'm going to reshare it, but this time I'm going to reshare it with the actual full screen. There we go. Just a moment. Here we are. So you should be able to see my entire desktop right now. I'm trying to keep it as tidy as possible. And when it comes to Microsoft Excel, it can be accessed in different ways. I will start by saying that. You can, of course, have it installed as a desktop application, which I think that's probably what the majority of us are doing. It can also be accessed via the web through the Office 365 login. But in this instance, I will be using the desktop app. So I'm just going to go in my search bar on my device, and I'm just going to type Excel. Here it is. I'm just going to open it up. There we go. And first things first. Usually when you open the application, you might not end up straight away on a worksheet. Chances are that maybe you are inside of this homepage of the actual app. Let me also get rid of this presentation bar. There we go. So let's see exactly how do we navigate to the homepage and what does it have to offer to us. On the left-hand side, as you can see, there is quite a few options when it comes to the actual menu. Right now, we are in the home page, and the home page usually covers an overview of how you can get started with different type of workbooks. So the first lineup that you see here at the top is basically it gives you the possibility to start from a blank workbook. So literally no data at all. And then if I go through the rest of the options listed here, you'll notice that there are quite a few templates that a user can start leveraging. If we select the More Templates button from the right-hand side, it will then take us to this page. And then you notice that based on your need, you can actually start working with some of these templates based on your day-to-day routine. Maybe you are the type of user that works with budgets all the time, for example, or a weekly chore schedule, or anything of anything. There's quite a few templates in here. You can start working with them straight away. The only thing that is missing is the actual data, which will be your data that you can paste inside. Apart from this, I also want to highlight these green tiles here. So the Welcome to Excel template, the Power Query tutorial, Beyond Pie Charts tutorial. These are all very great for those of you who would like to, let's say, go a little bit more in depth with particular areas inside of Excel. It is a great way to start working with formulas, with tables, with charts. So not only does it give you the template, but it also gives you some exercises inside. It tells you what to do, how to do, and then you can actually practice. So I'll definitely highlight these. You also have a search bar in the template area where you can actually go and have a look at some of the suggested searches. So let's say I work with planners and trackers all the time. There's some really great templates for that as well. If your organization has provided you with particular templates that they want you to use, I will also highlight the fact that there is an area here right above the the search bar that might say the name of your organization. So to give you an example, us here at Microsoft, we have our own templates as well, and I can go start using them straight away. The other options that I want to highlight is the bottom left-hand corner of this navigation menu. So one, you've got the account area. In the account area, you can see pretty much what kind of subscription you're under. Obviously, there are different versions of Office 2016, 19, the latest Office 365 So it really depends sometimes. If you feel like certain features are not available, it might be because you're running on a different version of the application. In here, under the account info is basically where you can go and check what version do you have. And there's also an option to check for updates. And last but not least, very important, the option panel in the bottom left. This one will allow me as a user to actually decide how I want my experience to actually be with this app. It's a matter of customization. So in this panel, particularly, you can go and enable or disable certain features inside of Excel that you find more or less useful. Anything from general to formulas to language to accessibility. Just tick and untick the boxes and then make sure that you click OK in the bottom right so that these changes can actually take place straight away. Now, the last thing that I'm going to mention here is the navigation in the actual workbook. Let's say you are starting to work from a blank document, like me. I will highlight for you the very top area of Excel because this is where we have the majority of the tools. So I have a search bar at the very top where I can start looking for, I don't know, particular features, people from within my organization, access other documents. Everything is tied up to your account, basically. So that is definitely one thing that I like about all the productivity tools that we've got. Apart from this, this entire toolbar that you see here right at the top, this is called the ribbon. The ribbon is basically where I can find the features inside of the app. They have all been organized with the help of some tabs. So under the Home tab, you usually find options in regarding to text, font, alignment, and so on. When you go in Insert, you can already see that these features have changed. So now you are looking at inserting tables and charts and maps and other elements. And then if we continue through this tab section, you know, draw, page layout, formulas, and so on and so forth. So each and every one of these tabs has something else to offer. Underneath the ribbon, we have the name box. So this little sign right here on the left, this is called the name box. The name box usually tells you the coordinate of where exactly you are on the workbook. So right now it's telling me that I am in cell A1. If I move away, it will tell me that right now I'm in E7. Next to the name box, you have the function bar. So this is where we can start working with formulas. You will see as we go along that whatever formula you work with, whenever you select an area, again, it will tell you exactly what formula has been used in that particular cell and so on. And it is also sort of like a shortcut to actually see what formulas you've got in Excel. So if I click on this little FX icon, it will then open up a little window. And then from here, I can also start exploring the different types of formulas that we've got. Needless to highlight that formulas inside of Excel vary depending on the field that you're working in. There are formulas dedicated straight for financial, math and tricks, statistical, and so on. So each one of these sections has multiple formulas underneath it. Also, you've probably noticed, maybe some of you already have some type of knowledge of Excel, but Excel is actually made out of columns and rows, and of course, the cells that you can clearly see on my screen. When we work with Excel, we are working with workbooks. That is the terminology. So this is an entire workbook. And each workbook has multiple sheets or multiple pages if you want. The sheets can be seen at the bottom of the page. So right now I am on sheet 1. If I want to add another sheet and another one, I'll click the plus sign and then it will start adding more and more pages to my book. These worksheets can be renamed, so it doesn't have to stay like this, sheet 1, sheet 2. You can actually either double click on it and change the name, or you can right click and it will pretty much do the same thing. It will give you the option to rename a worksheet, to delete it, to protect it. So there's quite a few options listed in here. And we'll come back to the protection of the sheet and towards the end of the training. One more fun piece, and then we're going to go straight inside of the workbook. When you are inserting data inside of Excel, probably something that some of you might have noticed, but let's say I insert text. Yeah, I type text. When I insert text inside of my cells, the text aligns from the left to the right. If I was to go and insert a number, it aligns on the right-hand side of the cell. So just something to understand. I don't know exactly why. I think that's just how the application was built, but just a fun fact for you to know. So text is always on the left, and then the numbers are on the right. All right, and that was the last thing that I wanted to show you in regards to general navigation and terminology. What I will do now is I'm going to close this sheet. Obviously, I'm not going to save it. And I'm coming back to my workbook, the one that you should all have been downloaded it by now. I'm also going to try to see if it allows me to sort of like swap my credentials, although I think it might not do that, but we'll give it a try. There we go. Now, the workbook that I'm going to work on today has multiple sheets as well. So I have also increased the size of the zoom on each sheet. Right now I am on 170%. Let's do it maybe 160. Do let me know if you feel like it's not clear enough, or if you see the writing is too small. I'm more than happy to increase it again. So on sheet number 1, we're going to be looking at charts and tables. So I've tried to give the actual name right here at the bottom. We'll have some exercises basically on each sheet. On sheet number 2, we're going to be looking at some formulas. On sheet number 3, this is an invoice. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you can use when you work with invoices, how you can quickly calculate everything. And also how do you effectively print a worksheet. And the last piece is going to be a mix of some of the elements that we already learned of. So we're going to transform the data in a table. We are going to do some conditional formatting on it. I'm hoping that this demonstration is going to serve you from now on as well. But of course, do send us questions if there's anything else that you don't understand or you want us to explain again. Okay. Exercise number 1, charts and tables. Yeah, I'm going to work with some fake data, basically, that I have here. So these are the results of some of the surveys that I have conducted. And I would like to take this little piece of data and transform it into a table. You will understand later on why tables are much easier to work with. It has a more solid structure, and also you benefit of other features with when you're working with tables. So if I want to select this entire data, the easiest thing to do is to position my mouse in the top left corner of where the data actually starts, and then to just drag it across and select the entire chunk of information. Now, when you see this type of selection of multiple cells in a go, this is called a range. So I have selected an entire range of cells. Now that I've made my selection, I can go up to the top in the ribbon, highlight the Insert tab, and now you'll notice that I have the possibility to start inserting a table inside of my sheet. When you click on Table, depending on how your data is structured, it will ask you if your table has headers. The headers are basically the titles that you are giving to each column. So mine has headers. One is called Results, the other one is called Answers. If that is the case, please make sure that you tick the box underneath that says my table has headers. Then we click OK. And just like that, with 2 clicks, my table has now been inserted. What's the difference now? Well, apart from the obvious color change, so I can actually start seeing my data a little bit better. Each one of the headers has a filtering option applied to it. So the results, for example, if I select this little drop down, now gives me the opportunity to start sorting the information in a particular way. Because it's text, it's A to Z or Z to A. And it also gives me the possibility to filter through whatever data exists inside of that column. These are some of the options that I have. So let's say, for example, I want to hide some of the results. For example, I don't want to see how many have strongly disagreed. So I can untick the box, click OK, and then that result has disappeared from the table. It's not deleted, it's just hidden. And if at any point you want to bring that data back, you just have to do the whole action in reverse. So you go back to the drop down and you can select Clear Filter. Or you can just tick back the box and it will do pretty much the same thing. Apart from this, because I have a table now, if I select or if I click anywhere inside of this table, I can go up at the top of the ribbon and you'll notice I have an entire tab now dedicated to design. By default, Excel gave me this blue and white type of design for my table, but if I don't like it, I can go ahead in the table styles section in the top right. I can drop down the arrow and I can have a look through the different styles of tables that I could use. Obviously, think about accessibility as well. When you pick the colors, make sure that the text is easy to be read as well. Black on white contrast. And these are some of the options that you have right here. Let's say I'll stick to this one. There's also a whole range of other tools that you can leverage. So if you want to remove duplicates from a table, that possibility is here as well in the tools section towards the left. And I also want to highlight the fact that you can actually give this table a name. So by default, every table is numbered, table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on. I can actually go here on the top left corner, and instead of having this table called table 1, I can delete that name, and I'm just going to put a different one. Let's say tech. I'll press enter, and that's it. This is going to be the new name of the table from now on. Now, the reason why we actually give tables names is because later on, when you start working with formulas, you can actually reference the table name inside of your formula. Instead of me coming back to the sheet and selecting the data, I can just type the name of the table and it will appear straight away. So hopefully you understand the reason and the benefit behind that. But all in all, that is literally how easy it is to insert tables within your Excel. Further down the line, I've got a couple of other pieces of data listed in here. Let's do that. This time, I've got some departments listed and I've got the months of the year with some numbers next to them. So let's say maybe these are the hours that everyone has worked in total throughout these months and in these departments. What I would like to do with this data is I would like to select it and transform it into a chart. So we will proceed in the same way that we did earlier with the table. I'm going to position my mouse where the data starts, so the first cell, and then just drag my mouse across until I select everything. So I select my range again. And I can go one more time up at the top where it says insert. At this time, I'm going to look in the chart section. When you're working with charts in Excel, one thing that I want you to be aware of is that Excel is quite smart. So we're looking at AI, we're looking at the way that the data is being read by the application. And based on this, Excel could actually recommend you the best charts that would work for this type of data that you just selected. So I could leverage that. I could select, okay, show me recommended charts. And once I click on that, it will show me pretty much that these charts, like the clustered one, stacked column one, stacked area, would be the best ones to actually showcase the data that I have. But if you don't like these recommendations, you can go to the all chart section, which is right here at the top left. And then you can have a look through all of the charts that exist inside of Excel, and then you pick the one that you feel works best with your data. It's all about making sure that any other user that might come in contact with the sheet will understand the way that the data is actually arranged inside of that chart. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to select this clustered column one. I'll click OK, and then the chart will appear right here inside of my sheet. You can drag it from the corners and you can make it smaller. You can also select it if you want, and you can move it wherever you see fit. Let's say maybe I want to drag this and I don't know, move it a little bit lower. I'm selecting the wrong pieces. There you go. I can put it here maybe next to my actual data. And some of the actions that you can actually do when it comes to this chart. Obviously, it gave me a particular color combo, blue, orange, gray, and yellow when it comes to the actual chart bars. Again, because I'm inserting a new element inside of my sheet, automatically at the top of Excel, I have a new tab that has appeared and that is dedicated to the chart design. So from here, I can actually, again, have a look through the different color combos that I could use. So maybe I don't like this blue, orange, yellow, gray combination. Maybe I need to use something a little bit more monochromatic. So I could 100% go and do that. You can achieve that from the top left where it says change color. Or I could change the entire style of the whole chart. Take, for example, this nice dark mode. For those of you who work late at night, and also for myself, whenever I see bright colors in front of me, my eyes start to be a little bit funny. So I do prefer a dark mode when it comes to this. So you can definitely choose that, or you can have a look through all of the other options that are listed here at the top. Apart from these changes in the color and the style, on the right-hand side of the actual chart, there are 3 new buttons that have just appeared. So we have a plus sign, we've got a little paintbrush, and then I've got the filter icon. Each one of them does something else for me. I can also change and give this chart a proper title, because right now it doesn't have one. It says just chart title, the default. I can double click on this and I can just insert my own title. So I'll say office hours. That's that. Then I can move on the right. I can click on the plus sign because from here I can decide what other elements I would like to showcase inside of this chart. Right now you can clearly see I have the axis. Oop, disappeared again. So I've got the axis, the chart title, the grid lines, and the legend. But what about if I want to enable some of the other features, like data labels, for example? I want to clearly see the numbers for each and every one of these departments. So I'm ticking the box that says data labels, and now these data labels are actually visible above each and every one of my bars in the chart. If I want to include the data set that I selected earlier, I can put the table right underneath the chart like this. So I have the charts with the bars, but I also have the actual data set listed underneath it. So just a couple of options to be aware of. The paintbrush that you see here on the right, this one is basically in regards of the style and the color. So if you don't want to change the style and the color from the top of Excel, you can do it from right next to it. And it will take you through pretty much the same options. Let's say I want to go for this one. And then the filtering option will allow me to, again, hide or unhide certain parts of my chart based on what do I want other people to see. And again, it will allow me to tick or untick boxes. Now, if you want specifically to change the color of one bar, you can also do that. As you notice now that when I play with the colors and the styles, it applies it to the entire chart. But what about if I want to just change the color of one of these bars? How do we do that? Easy. You can select the actual bar. If you click on it once, you'll notice it will select that bar in all of the other areas. But I just want to change the bar here in the design section. So I'm selecting it, I'm right-clicking on it, and this will allow me to fill that particular bar with whatever color I want to. So just, again, something to be aware of, as we do get this question quite a lot. And that was pretty much it. That was the basic features to be aware of when it comes to charts and tables. Now I'm going to move over to the next sheet, and then once I'm done with that, I'm going to stop to see if there are any questions from this showcase. Or I don't know, Kat, if there's anything that can't wait, please, you can unmute now and let me know.
Just a few little quick ones. We did have from a table, can you convert to a pie chart? Now, if you've already made the table, there isn't necessarily a convert button. However, you can just select the table and make a chart to go to the side of it. So pretty simple. If you've got a range as well, you can also already select that and turn it into a chart straight away, no problem. If you don't see the design options as well in your tabs across the top, just make sure you've actually selected the table or chart you're working on, and they should pop up for you too. Otherwise, we're all good.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. You can still insert whatever chart you want, even though you're working with a table. That will allow you to insert the chart next to it as well. Just make sure that you're selecting the data. Cool. Let's jump to sheet number 2. The monthly expenses. Very exciting. Here I have a list of my bank account and all the things that I have spent my money on. Obviously, it's fake. But all in all, on this particular sheet, we are going to be looking at some formulas and a couple of other little tips and tricks that I've got. So we're going to be looking at these 5 formulas: sum, average, count, max, and min. I'm going to show you there are different ways to start working with formulas, but I'm hoping that the one method that I will use will definitely be the easiest one. So one thing that we always get asked is, can you shift the data from one column to the other? Or can I shift the data in a way that it does not sort of like distort everything else? And the answer is yes. So starting right here on the left-hand side, if I position my mouse at the top of column A, and if I select it, you notice it selects the whole column down. So if you're looking at doing this type of selection, just do exactly what I did now. Mouse at the top of the column. As soon as you see this black arrow pointing down, that means that you're ready to select the whole thing. If you would like to insert another column here, and you want to shift everything towards the right, or let's say towards the left, you can right-click on the top of the column and then select Insert, and this will shift everything one column down. So now column A is empty, and then everything is in B and C. The reason why I've done that is because I would like to put here another header, and I would like to insert more data inside of this column. So I'm going to put categories as my header. And I would like to write next to each and every one of these expenses, what exactly did I spend my money on? For this, I have created a special list. You can see this list right here in the middle of the sheet. So food, homeware, others, services, and transport. And I have also included the same list on the third sheet that you see here at the bottom of Excel. I also have it here. There's a reason why I've put it like this. It's because I'm going to create a data validation list as well. So I can start writing literally manually next to each of them. So let's say food, Tesco was others, Marks and Spencer was homeware, so was food again. Because I'm typing the same words that I already used further up, Excel is like that. It will automatically detect that you have already used the same word further up in the same column. So it sort of like auto-suggests to me that, hey, you can use it again. I just need to press enter and it will just stay there. Anglia, that was transport. Uber, that was transport as well. So see now, because I'm repeating the same word, it goes so much faster. I just typed the first letter and it already suggests the word for me. Spotify, these were services. Was transport and food again. Transport for TFL. Now for the rest of them. Underneath, this would be one method to like fill up the words, but I can also do it through a data validation drop-down list. So what I can do now is I can select the rest of the remaining cells that I have here. And I'm going to go up to the top of my ribbon, particularly in the data tab. When I select the data tab, we are going to go to the data tools section. This is where we have the data validation feature. Now, again, based on what version of Excel you have, yours might be located in a different area, but it should definitely be under the data tab. And then search for data tools. If you still can't find it, please use the search bar. Just type data validation in the search bar and it will pop up. I'm going to select the data validation, and from this little window, because I need a list, I will have to select that from the drop down. So what do you want to create? A list. Okay. And what is going to be the source of my data validation? This is where the list comes in hand. So the list that I have created here on this third sheet is what I'm going to use as a criteria for my data validation. A tip that I have for you is to also position the criteria in the same column. The reason why I've done it like this is because in the future, if I need to add more criteria to this list, it's going to be so easy for me to do that. I'm selecting the source. I'm selecting the entire column down. And as you can see, as I have selected my source of the validation, it has already populated inside of my data validation window here. Please do not click anywhere else. Just click OK. If you click somewhere else, it's going to give you an error and it's not going to work. Click OK, and that's it. It shoots you straight back into your original sheet. And although it might look like nothing happened, if you take a closer look to the actual cells here on the left, you notice that I have a little arrow, and underneath this arrow is the validation criteria that I just selected. So I can continue to populate the rest of my fields. Let's say Tesco, that was others. I'll go to Deliveroo, that was services. IKEA was homeware. Pizza Hut was food, and so on and so forth. What happens if I try to insert something that was not clearly listed in that validation criteria? You can still try to type manually something in the cell. Let's say here for the core, let's say I bought something for my pet. So I'll say pet, I'll type. When I press enter, it will straight away give me a notification saying that the value that I'm trying to assert was not defined in the validation criteria. So you cannot insert anything apart from what was agreed on, basically. And what I agreed on was this. Now, if I want that pet to be available in the other sheet, I will have to add it here. And that's the reason why I've aligned everything in a column, because now when I type pet and I go back in my expenses, pet will also appear in the dropdown. So that is the secret that I have for all of you. There we go. So all good, all done. And I just realized now that I have sort of like shifted myself up. Let's do categories. And then for this post office one, what was it? Let's say services. Cool. Awesome. So I have all my data in here. Another thing that I can do is I can select this entire range of data and I can apply a filter to it. Even though I'm not going to work with a table this time, you have the possibility to apply filters to the data. So I'm selecting the whole range. I can go up to the ribbon one more time, and you notice I have here the filter icon. So I can apply that to my entire range. And the next thing that you see, hopefully if it has done it for me, let's do that one more time. There we go, now it worked. You will see that I have these drop-down arrows present at the top of each one of these columns. Although I did not transform this into a table, it will still work. So I can sort from A to Z. Let's do that. And now everything is nicely aligned. Food, I can see clearly how much money I spent on food, homeware, others, pet services, and so on and so forth. So very nice and simple. And now, based on all this money that I have here on the side, let's go ahead and see how do I calculate things using the formulas. I will start with the sum first. It is the easiest thing in the world. Every formula inside of Excel starts with the equal sign, all of them. So if you're the type of user that prefers to leverage the function bar, the formula bar at the top, or the formula tab at the top, feel free to do that as well. But for myself, I find it so much easier to just start on the spot in the cell with the equal sign. So we'll do equal, we'll type the name of the formula that we want to use, and then straight away you'll notice the drop down has appeared and it shows me all the formulas that sort of like start with that name. Usually the one that you want will always be listed at the very top, but please double check always just to make sure that you are working with the one that you actually need. And it also gives you a little bit of a description of what that formula does. For some, for example, it says it adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So that's precisely what I need. So I'm going to double click on the formula, and now I need to start inserting or start selecting the arguments that it is asking me to select. It says number 1, comma, number 2, comma, number 3, and so on. Now, my preference is if you don't have anything else on the sheet, for example, I don't have anything else at the bottom, I could go ahead and I could sum up everything easily by simply selecting the entire column with all the numbers inside. Super easy. Then the next step, close the bracket. Very important. After every formula, you have to close your bracket. Click enter and the result will be given straight away. 253.02. In terms of the value that you actually have, so the format of this data, it doesn't really specify to me if this is money, is this, I don't know, liters, what is it? Like what type of data is it? You can always swing back up in Excel under the home section, and right in the middle of the ribbon you have the general tab basically that allows me to specify the format of that data. And you've got everything from numbers, percentage, date and time, fractions. Right now I'm working with numbers, so I could select currency just so I can get that pound sign next to the amount. Or if you prefer accounting, accounting does pretty much the same thing like currency. The only difference is that it positions the pound sign a little bit away from the actual number. Now let's use the average one. So we'll do the same thing like we did with the sum. We'll do equal, and then we'll start typing the name of the formula. So equal average, selected, and it is asking me again to put together number 1, comma number 2, and so on. If you have other items at the bottom of your sheet, then obviously it's not recommended that you do the whole column selection. So in this case, I'm just going to go and I'm going to select the range of cells that interest me. Here we go. Close the bracket, hit enter, and that's it. It is telling me that on average, I spent £13.32. The count formula. A very, very cheeky formula that allows me to count all the cells that contain numbers. So if I want to see how many items I actually have in a column, and by items I mean cells that contain numbers, you can use the count formula for that. So we'll do equal count. And again, it is asking me to put 1 and 2 together. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to select the whole column for a particular reason. If you notice, this column contains numbers indeed, but it also contains one cell in particular that has text inside. So realistically speaking, although I have 20 cells in total, the count is not going to give me 20 items. It's going to give me 19 items only. So I'm closing my bracket, hitting enter, and 19 is the count because it did not take into consideration the cell at the top that contained text. Just the ones with the numbers. If you want to count including text, then there's another formula for that. It's called count if, which pretty much conditions basically the use of the formula. Now we do max, equal max. It will show me basically what is the largest amount of money that I've spent. So I'm going to select the whole column again. I'll close the bracket, hit enter, and it tells me on average, the maximum amount that I spent was £43.87. And indeed, if I look through this, there it is. That's the most I've spent on pet. Very accurate. And the minimum, equal min. And again, I'm going to select the whole column and I'll click the bracket, close the bracket, hit enter, and it tells me the minimum amount I spent was £2.50. And if I look through this entire list of money, let's see where it is. There it is. The post office, £2.50. That was the lowest. So I hope you found this showcase of formulas easy to follow. Obviously, the more you practice, the more you get into the habit of actually using them. Kat, I know we're in crisis of time, but do we have any questions from the data validation or from the formulas that I just showcased?
Nothing about data validation or formulas. However, I do want to call out, if you are using a slightly older version of Excel, the majority of the processes will be the same. You may just not be seeing a few of the little tooltips, such as when you select a chart, but you should be able to find all of the same functions, controls inside of the chart design tab. You can always check which version you're using by heading to File and Account. Otherwise, I think we're great to continue.
Awesome, perfect. So I'm going to jump straight into the invoice. Very, very short and sweet this one is going to be. For the invoice piece, let's say you are working with invoices. So I have here the invoice of one of my coffee shops, basically. And I've got the items that we have sold. I haven't written the quantity down. Let's say, for example, I have 6 of these, and then so on and so forth. Now, there's already sort of like a formula applied to it. So you notice as I go along through it, it sort of like calculates everything for me. So I can go and just insert some of the numbers quickly, just for you to, to see pretty much how that looks. But I'm also going to show you manually how everything was calculated, because you're probably wondering why does it do that. So let's very quickly fill in some spaces in here. You can do the same if you want. And delivery charge was, let's say, 15. Awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete some of these values from here. I'm going to leave the first one. Let's do this whole thing. There we go. Done. Yeah, so I only have the first one done. Or I could even delete this one just for you to understand. We're going to do some multiplication in here. There's no formula for multiplying things. It is literally just using the keyboard itself. But the one thing that I like about Excel is that it has the capability of auto-filling spaces for you. And I'll explain that more in depth, what auto-filling actually means. So right here, I would like to calculate how much does 6 times 3 actually value. So the easiest way to do the multiplication is, again, we're going to start with the equal sign, but this time we're just going to select some cells. So I'm going to select the cell with the quantity, which is 6 times. Times is basically the asterisk that you have on your keyboard. And then I'm going to select the actual price, which is £3. Press enter, and it will tell you that it's £18. Now, obviously, I could go down this line and I could do the multiplication for each and every one of them individually. So I could do for the next one as well. Let's say equal 12 times 3, this much. But the easiest thing that you could do right now is to actually just select, or you can just position your mouse here and then just put the mouse in the corner of the cell and then just drag it down like this, and it will autofill the rest of the calculations for you. That is the autofill section. The same thing you can apply when you are literally doing a lineup of numbers. So if you take a look right here on the right, let's say I do 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to see what the rest of the numbers will be like, I can just select it, drag it down, and then it will just autofill for me the rest of them. The same thing goes for the months of the week. Let's say I start Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, but what about the rest of them? I can go ahead and select the whole thing again, drag it down, and then it will start populating the rest of the weeks for me. And that is what the autofill does. It picks up a habit, it picks up a pattern, basically. So for the rest of my invoice, I need to still calculate the total, the taxes, and then the grand total. For the total, I have a little shortcut for you. Given the fact that I don't have anything here in between, I can calculate the total by using a shortcut. And that shortcut is by holding the Alt key and the equal sign together. So Alt plus equal. I'm going to position my mouse here in the cell where I need to calculate my total. I'm going to press the Alt key and the equal sign together. And straight away you'll notice it has pulled up from above all the numbers that I need to calculate the total for. But again, remember, this shortcut works only if you don't have anything here in between the actual charges and the total. If you have something in between, then obviously you need to use the sum formula to calculate that. But right now, kudos to this little shortcut. I'll press enter and it gives me straight away the total, 772.50. For the tax is 20%. So I'm going to multiply here. Equal 772.50 times 20%. Again, I'm selecting cells because in time, if these numbers are going to change, I would like the formula to automatically change as well and refresh. That's the reason why I'm selecting the cells and I'm not manually typing the actual percentage or the number. Press enter and it tells me the tax is 154.50. Let's say the tax is going to change in time from 20% to 25%. Automatically, everything else has changed as well. So the tax is no longer 150 something, it's 193. So I'm hoping that this will make it a little bit more clear than why we are selecting cells and we're not typing the things instead. And for the grand total, obviously, I'm going to use the sum formula. Very nice and simple. So I'll do equal sum. And I'm just going to select the formula. I'm going to drag these two numbers together. Close my bracket, hit enter, and there you have it. It has been calculated nicely. When it comes to printing such an invoice, there's a couple of things to be aware of. First, if your invoice contains a particular color, for example, or icons, just like mine does, one recommendation that I have for you is to always check for accessibility. Look at the contrast between the background color of the invoice and the actual text that you have inserted. So think about the contrast. And if you're not 100% sure, at the top of Excel, if you take a look at the review tab, you will have the accessibility checker here. So this will allow you to basically double check, triple check to make sure that the content is inclusive to everyone. And from the bottom right of Excel, you have the possibility to look at the different page views of the actual sheet, whereby I can go ahead and I can click on this third button that you see here, and this will pretty much allow me to adjust the page that I'm about to print to make sure that I don't include any unnecessary data. So page 1 will be, as you can see, very nice and clear. It will only contain my invoice. But if I want to print any of the other items next to it, I can just drag this to include that as well. So again, just a little tip for all of you. Third icon at the bottom right of the screen will allow you. That is the page break view, basically. And this brings us also to the last sheet that I have here for the exercise, and that is the inventory. I do believe Catherine has gone now, but don't worry, I'm going to have a look in the Q&A if there's anything that hasn't been answered. This is a sheet, an exercise for some inventory, but mostly we're going to use this to apply some of the features that we already learned about. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do my multiplication here on the side. I want to see out of my inventory count and the price unit, how much is my inventory value actually. First, I'm going to apply the obviously the format because it doesn't tell me that this is money. So I'm going to select the unit price and we're going to go to home and select the currency. So it applies to it. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the first item and then we're going to use the autofill to populate the rest of the sections below. So we're going to do again equal 25 times 12.99 is this much. And then the rest of them, position your mouse in the corner of the cell. Your mouse should have this very thick black look, and then drag down to fill the rest of the spaces. Perfect. Now we're going to select this entire range, just like this, and we're going to insert it into a table. So we're going to transform it into a table with the help of the insert section. Now we're going to go table. Yes, it has headers, 100%. And there's my table done as well. Excellent. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is how I can keep track of my inventory count, because I'm looking at numbers right now. And if anyone has ever worked in inventory before, you're probably very aware of the fact that numbers fluctuate. You might end up with too many things in stock of like one product versus not having enough of another one. And if it's difficult to just look at numbers to keep track of that, one thing that you can do for yourself is to apply some conditional formatting to these tables, to the data. Particularly right now, I have selected column D because that's the one that interests me. But at the end of the day, you can select multiple other columns as well. And from the home section, of Excel, we're going to go to conditional formatting. If you don't find it here, please use the search bar, depending on your version. And in the conditional formatting, I'm going to start applying maybe some data bars with a gradient fill, or maybe some color scales that will show me, obviously, the red can be the highest number, green can be the lowest number. My absolute favorite one is the icon set with the directions. This will let me know if I have too much of one kind. So for example, if the number 6 here changes in time, and let's say instead of 6, I'm going to have 17, the arrow will automatically update as well. If I do 50, let's say, the arrow has now gone from red to green, saying that I have sort of like enough of that. And again, these are basically rules that you make for yourself. When it comes to conditional formatting, we're also looking at rules. So under the same conditional formatting option here at the top, you have the possibility to manage this rule, in the sense that maybe you don't want this particular icon set, or maybe you don't want green to mean that you have enough. So you can go ahead and you can edit the rule. You can decide basically what value it will represent to you. And you can also pick whatever icon you want instead. So it's all about, you know, putting some conditions basically that will help you as an individual. But other than this, the last thing that you could do here is to obviously share the document with someone based on where you have saved your Excel workbook. It could be saved on your desktop, obviously, or at the end of the day, you can also go in the file section and save it in one of the cloud storage areas that you might have, like OneDrive or SharePoint. OneDrive is for yourself, SharePoint is for the entire organization. Please remember that. So think about if the document is important to everyone or if it's just for yourself. That will eventually determine where exactly you're going to save it. And last but not least, before you send the document, if there's any restrictions that you would like to apply to the file, please look in the info section of the document and have a look at the protect workbook option, because from here you can go and you can turn the file into read only. You can encrypt it with a password. You can protect the workbook structure, or you can just go and lock in certain sheets of the actual workbook. Just a couple of things that I think are quite relevant in this case, based on, again, who do you want to have access to the data. And since Catherine is gone now, I'm just going to quickly jump inside of the Q&A to see if there's anything else. I can see that there are no questions and everything has been answered. Anonymous, I can watch back this video through the link that got sent to us in the email, right? Yes, Anonymous, you can, but we are also going to send over the recording to your team, and I think they will position it somewhere internally on one of your learning platforms, or wherever you keep the training resources for yourself internally. I believe Kat has also posted in the Q&A this feedback form, so I'm pointing at it right now in case any of you have time and want to give us some feedback. It's not mandatory. It's not from the tech army. It's literally from me and Catherine. If you have a minute and you want to let us know if you found today's training useful, if you learned a few things from it, then this is the survey. On a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the training session? Obviously, we always aim for the higher marks, but if there's anything that you would like us to fix for next time, please provide us with some clarity by using the 3 boxes here at the bottom of the survey. You can actually type proper text in. Other than this, you have been wonderful. You've been very proactive in the Q&A, so I would like to thank you all for that. And I hope to see you again with more training sessions for Excel or maybe for other Microsoft 365 topics. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a lovely rest of the day and the week.